So students, we are on the verge of finishing up the chapter. Here we have two most interesting, very beautiful to know kind of episodes. The first one is mass production and mass consumption. It is connected with global depression. And the another one we have is how to get out of this global depression and what efforts were made. So, mass production and mass consumption, what it is all about. Well, you must have heard the name of Ford Motors, the one making Ford cars. So, in 1920, Henry Ford once visited a slaughterhouse and he saw that on one particular conveyor belt, the butcher was standing crisscross with holding the knives in their hand, and on the conveyor belt, as soon as this animal passed, everybody just attacked on and cut chopped, and within minutes it was turned into pieces. He was quite impressed with the method of production because it was very efficient and fast. So he decided to adopt this conveyor belt assembly line into his factory. So this increased the speed of production because now workers could not afford standing, could not afford talking. They had to match the pace of the machine. So the production speed increased. And this T model became quite popular and helped a lot of cost cutting. Gradually, it became so popular that other factory owners too started adopting it. Henry Ford doubled the wages of workers to motivate them to work faster. Now, this protest, this resistance was seen, that workers calculated that with this speed we get exhausted, we never work like this, and we are still paid the same. So in order to solve this dissatisfaction problem and motivate them, the workers' wages were directly doubled. Now when the wages were doubled, what happened? Because their income increases, their purchasing power also increased. Whenever man starts earning, he wants to spend it more. So with the confidence that now when their salaries are doubled and they have quite good income and their purchasing power also is high, they started buying radio, refrigerator, washing machines, etc. on a hire purchase system. Hire purchase as in loan. So they were quite confident that we will pay the EMIs, we are quite capable enough, we do have good salary, and things were going quite good. Meantime, by 1929, the world faced one setback. There was a shock. The US started falling short of funds because so many other countries borrowed a lot. Because of this system only. You know how? A lot of production required because lot of consumption was there and lot of investment was there. Real estate was also booming. From a small company to a huge giant company, everybody were making money, everybody were in more need of money for investment, everybody were taking loan, and US was the greatest loan giver, and now they were falling short of funds. So gradually the country stopped giving loans to others, and sooner or later they stopped giving loans to the country people also. And eventually this cycle of production and consumption and production and consumption and higher income stopped. Everybody had everything. Now there was no need of anything, and suddenly the demand supply channel broke. Earlier, because the demand was high, the supply was made high. Now the supply is very high but the demand is a bit reduced. So came the slump period wherein everybody's warehouses had so much of stock and nobody wanted to sell. Now when nobody wanted to buy. So now when nobody wanted to buy, employees were not needed. Because employees lost a job, so they could not pay EMI. Gradually it impacted whole of the economy. And eventually by 1933, the US banking system also collapsed. Over 4,000 banks and 110,000 companies collapsed. Look at the figure. In our country, when one bank also faces huge losses, it is a matter of debate for so many days. Here 4,000 banks got collapsed. And 110,000 companies. Isn't it a huge number? how many people must be dependent on the incomes of those 1,10,000 companies? Just imagine. And when 4,000 banks get collapsed, what would be the level of damage to the US economy? We can imagine. There was a need of revival, and instead now there was quite much need of something to be done, that economy will get back to normal. It will slowly start functioning. And instead, World War II in 1939 worsened the case. So just after this 1933, even in India it was worst hit. The agricultural prices fell so down that farmers in their worst nightmare couldn't have imagined. So things were not going good. After this, after 1930, hardly everything was about to be alright, and then this World War II came up and economy kept on worsening. The social structure of society went worst. The economic structures, one needs not to ask. And so Bretton Woods institutions came up. Now what they are? In 1944, just the year before the World War II ended, in New Hampshire, USA, many top country delegates, they met. And they decided that something has to be done. We cannot afford these losses. We cannot let the country go into a devastating situation. So in 1944, two bodies, IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, which is now an organ of United Nations, and IBRD, which is now known as World Bank. The full form is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. In order to reconstruct the country's economy, this institution provided loan. And they both became active in 1947. You have to remember this data. Beside that, the two other norms were also set. If anybody wants to buy gold or anybody wants to get these notes printed, they had to mortgage gold, and the price of gold was $35 per ounce of gold. You need to remember this. This happened in Bretton Woods meeting. And there was a philosophy of fixed rate. Fixed rate as in, say for example, in India is 70 times poorer today with USA, then the price of $1 equals to 70 rupees. Now permanently it will be like this. It will be fixed. So when India develops and when actually the gap between the two is lesser, it will still be 70 times poorer to be considered in terms of value, which is unfair. Sounds wrong, right? If my country develops and if USA does not, then I should reach up and there should be lesser gap between the currency of USA and India. So these four norms were set up when the country delegates met where? At New Hampshire, USA. In which year? 1944. So after this World War II got over, and in 1947 when these two financial bodies started giving away loans to rich countries, there happened a group of 77 countries. So it is popularly known as G77. They demanded NEO. NEO is New International Economic Order. Now what is this NEO? They wanted that these four things are good to go, but then they are not fair. Why? Because IMF and IBRD gave loans. They definitely did give a loan, but then they gave it to the richer countries, and actually funds were needed to the poorer and backward countries. So then after the protest of G77, after this group of 77 countries put forward the demand for NEO, that is New International Economic Order, IMF and World Bank started offering loan to poor nations also. Now this fixed charge was wrong, so floating rate came. Today India is 70 times poorer, USA is $1, we are 70 rupees. Someday when we develop it would be 60 rupees, $1, 50 rupees, $1. So basically floating rate as in fluctuating rate, moving rate, not fixed rate. It cannot be stamped, okay, now this will only be the price. And setup of MNC in low wage countries. All the companies from big countries, they started making MNC, multinational corporation, as in so many countries their business houses are, and the production of MNC went in the low wage country like India, China and Brazil. So from USA, Europe, UK, they shifted towards India, China and Brazil like countries. So that's how Bretton Woods institutions played their role in reviving the economy, and these factors were responsible in the global depression. I hope you are clear. You need any questions, you feel any doubt, you can always mention us in the comment section. See you children with the new topic, new chapter. Bye bye.